So the learning style for children with autism is very different to individuals who don't have a diagnosis. For many of our children, they're visual learners or visual thinkers, so we're thinking with a visual mindset. So when we're communicating with them, we want to make sure that the information that we're giving them, the spoken word and the verbal instructions that we're giving, that we make it more concrete and we make it in a visual way. For many of our children with autism, they will struggle with their processing speed. So when they're given the spoken word or they're given a verbal instruction, it takes a lot longer for their brain to process that information, to make sense of the words, interpret their meaning, and then to choose from really a vast catalogue of possibilities. One of the strategies that we recommend in the Centre for Autism is the 10-second rule. So when you give a verbal instruction or a spoken word to a child, that you wait about 10 seconds in order to give them enough of a chance to take that information in, to prioritise it, to interpret its meaning, and then to respond in an appropriate way in accordance to the context that they're in. For a lot of our children, they struggle with implicit learning. So that's where you're learning intuitively or innately. And we often do this type of learning from very young babies right up into school and beyond. For children with autism, what we know is that they're much stronger at explicit learning. So when the information is more rule-bound or when it's very concrete in relation to them, they tend to learn better in this way. Try and reduce your language. Try to use less words rather than using a whole lot of words that maybe aren't necessary. So make your language more direct, more specific. Allow for that additional processing time and give that child enough time to process and prioritise and then respond to that information that you've given them. So if you can, use the child's special interest when you're working with them in your teaching and in your learning. And for many children with autism, they will have an area of special interest or an obsession. And these can be sometimes obscure or very unusual things. It could be something like samurai swords or washing machines. But if you're going to use that type of special interest in your teaching and in your learning, it's likely that you're going to get good engagement from that child. They're going to be motivated to learn, and you're going to get better attention and concentration during tasks and activities if you've grabbed their attention from the outset. So when you're using visual supports and you're using the principles of structured teaching, there's some very simple strategies that you might want to think about with your work with a child or an individual with autism. We always want to make it predictable as much as we can. So a very simple first and then chart can work really well. Just on your whiteboard, you're just going to write onto it or draw onto it or place photographs to indicate to the child that first you're doing this and then you're doing whatever comes next. So it makes it really predictable for that child. It'll also support their transition, so moving from one activity to another. Schedules are a really important feature of our work with children with autism. We encourage that children are using schedules throughout their day, and a schedule will have lots of different purposes or functions for a child. It'll structure up their daily routine so they'll fully understand what's expected of them, what it is that they're going to be doing.